It was a cry in the dark that shattered the silence of a privileged enclave. In May 2010, a 24-year-old sex worker woman named Shannon Gilbert fled a client's house in the gated community of Oak Beach, New York. Her final moments were captured on a haunting 23-minute 911 call before she vanished into the dark marshland. The massive police search that followed was not for a serial killer. It was for one missing woman. But as Newsday would later report, the search for Shannon Gilbert unwittingly triggered one of the most extensive murder investigations in Long Island history. It was the catalyst that ripped away the veil, exposing a horror that had been hiding in plain sight for years. The search for Shannon Gilbert led authorities to Ocean Parkway, a thin strip of asphalt running alongside the sandy shores of Gilgo Beach. This windswept landscape, with its dense maritime brush and lonely stretches of road, seemed the perfect place for secrets to remain buried. And for years, it had been. The discovery came on a cold December day in 2010. Police officer John Malia and his German Shepherd canine partner Blue were methodically working through the thick undergrowth when Blue alerted. What they found was a skeleton. It was not Shannon Gilbert. It was the first thread of a much larger, more horrifying tapestry. One body became two became four. By the spring of 2011, the count had reached 10 sets of human remains scattered along that same desolate stretch of Parkway. The media immediately seized on the story, with the New York Post's stark headline declaring, "Gilgo Beach Graveyard, 10 bodies on Long Island." The first 4 victims discovered shared a chilling signature that suggested they were the work of the same killer. They were all young women who'd been working as escorts and advertising their services online. Most notably, they had all been carefully wrapped in burlap sacks before being discarded like trash along the Parkway. These 4 women: Melissa Barthelemy, age 24, Megan Waterman, 22, Amberlyn Costello, 27, and Maureen Brainard Barnes, 25, became known collectively as the Gilgo Four. They were mothers, daughters, sisters, women with dreams and families who loved them, reduced to victims of a predator who saw them as disposable. But the story was even more complex than initially apparent. The other remains found along the same stretch included a young woman named Jessica Taylor, whose body had been dismembered. Valerie Mack, another victim, had her partial remains discovered years earlier. Most heartbreaking of all was the discovery of a small, unidentified toddler known only as Baby Doe. What followed was one of the most frustrating investigations in American criminal history. The Suffolk County Police formed a massive task force, yet the case grew colder with each passing year. Former FBI profiler Jim Clemente voiced what many were thinking when he stated this was a failure to protect the most vulnerable among us. The investigation was further complicated by local corruption. Suspicion fell on Dr. Peter Hackett, a local physician who made unsolicited calls to Shannon Gilbert's family. More damaging was the case of Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke, who would later be imprisoned for beating a suspect. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney described the prior administration as leaving behind a dysfunctional and broken system. The turning point came in 2022, when a renewed investigative effort was launched under District Attorney Ray Tierney. This new team brought fresh eyes and modern forensic technology to the mountain of accumulated evidence. Slowly, painstakingly, a profile began to emerge from the shadows. It pointed to a man who was hiding in plain sight, not a drifter or an obvious social outcast, but a respected professional living a seemingly normal life just miles from the dump sites. His name was Rex Heuermann. Rex Heuermann was a 59-year-old architect who worked in Manhattan and lived in Massapequa Park. To his neighbors, he was an unassuming if somewhat eccentric figure, a large, hulking man who stood over 6 feet tall and weighed nearly 300 pounds. But to the members of the Gilgo Beach Task Force, he was their prime suspect. The evidence against Heuermann represents a masterpiece of modern circumstantial investigation. It's what Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison would describe as a web of digital and electronic evidence that ensnared the suspect in ways he never anticipated. The first major break came from cell phone analysis. After Melissa Barthelemy's murder, someone had used her phone to make taunting calls to her younger sister. These calls were traced to cell towers that covered Heuermann's office and his home. Even more telling was the pattern that emerged from Heuermann's own phone records. His personal cell phone would consistently be turned off during the precise windows when the victims were believed to have been abducted. Then there was the vehicle evidence. Multiple witnesses recalled seeing a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, the same type of vehicle Heuermann owned, with Amber Costello on her last night alive. Perhaps the most damning evidence came from Heuermann's own digital footprint. Investigators uncovered a complex web of hundreds of anonymous online accounts and burner phones, all traced back to Heuermann. These accounts were used to contact the victims using graphic and violent language. Even more revealing were searches from his devices, extensive research on violent imagery, and specific searches for the victims by name. He was essentially Googling his own crimes. But the most powerful evidence was yet to come. For years, investigators had preserved a male hair recovered from the burlap used to wrap Megan Waterman's body. They had the killer's DNA profile, but no name. The break came through classic police work combined with modern forensic science. In spring 2023, investigators watched as Heuermann visited a Manhattan pizza parlor. After he discarded the pizza box, investigators retrieved it. The DNA from the pizza crust matched the hair from the burlap. For 13 years of silence, they had their man. On July 13, 2023, Rex Heuermann was arrested near his office in Manhattan. The news sent shockwaves through the law enforcement community. Commissioner Harrison captured the moment's significance. Today is a day for the victims, a day we have waited a very long time for. Heuermann was charged with the murders of all 4 women. But even with Heuermann in custody, the story of Gilgo Beach is far from over. The investigation remains active, with many questions still unanswered. Is Rex Heuermann responsible for all the bodies found along Ocean Parkway? The murders of Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack remain officially unsolved. The heartbreaking mystery of Baby Doe and her mother still awaits resolution. And then there's the question that started it all. What really happened to Shannan Gilbert? Her family's attorney, John Ray, maintains Shannan Gilbert was murdered. We believe the evidence is overwhelming. The story that began with a 23-minute 911 call serves as a chilling reminder of both the depths of human depravity and the resilience of those who seek justice. The waves still crash on Gilgo Beach, washing over sands that once concealed terrible secrets. But now they wash over a shore where justice, after 13 long years, is finally being served. The search that began for one missing woman ultimately uncovered a monster, proving that even in the darkest places, light eventually finds its way.